Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cuyahoga County Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee meeting this Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. Roll call, please.
And just as a reminder to all who are in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that council members Miller and Sweeney are in attendance.
Welcome, gentlemen. Is there public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Thank you. In your package, you'll have the minutes of January 16th meeting. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion and a second.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. 2024-0032.
Resolution number 2024-0032, awarding a total sum not to exceed $50,000 to the Catholic Charities Corporation for the purpose of the Migration and Refugee Service, Immigration, and Legal Services Program from the District 3 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Welcome. Your name, please? Is the light on?
How's that?
There you go.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for hearing our request today. My name is Adriana Coppola. I'm the Associate Director of Immigration Legal Services. That's a program inside of Migration and Refugee Services at Catholic Charities. And today I do have a presentation. I'm not sure how familiar you are with our program. I wanted to give you a brief overview of what we do and who we are, talk about our 2023 year in review, and what our ask is, our statement of need is today. So Immigration Legal Services, our mission is to provide competent legal representation to vulnerable populations. We also engage in community outreach and education. We were reestablished in 2011. We have 20 staff members, 10 of those being attorneys, 3 of them being DOJ accredited representatives and other support staff. We also host law students from Case Western and Cleveland Marshall and other law schools throughout the nation where they assist us in assisting immigrants and migrants. We provide a variety of services to immigrants in our service area. Our service area is listed here. It's 14 counties in the Diocese of Cleveland and Diocese of Youngstown, although the majority of our clients do reside in Cuyahoga County. We provide family-based and humanitarian-based assistance to immigrants in our service area. That includes filing family petitions, filing citizenship applications, green card applications, but also humanitarian relief such as asylum, withholding of removal. We represent individuals at the Cleveland Immigration Court and in front of the Board of Immigration Appeals. So in 2023, we saw about over 2,400 immigrants come through our doors. We opened cases for over 1,800 individuals seeking immigration legal services. Currently, we have about 200 people on our wait list. That wait list has not moved since 2015. So there is a very large demand, and no matter how much we build our capacity over the past few years, we're unfortunately unable to meet it, and we are turning a lot of people away. ILS is the largest nonprofit of its kind in the state of Ohio. We are state leaders in responding to humanitarian crises, such as the Afghan resettlement and Ukrainian resettlement in the area in the last few years. Again, we often engage in outreach to dispel any anti-immigrant myths that are in the community and to meet with immigrants to let them know what type of legal pathways are ahead for them as immigration policy changes. I wanted to briefly touch on the numbers, what we're seeing right now in Immigration Court, Customs and Border Patrol, and different programs that are increasing the amount of immigrants that are arriving in our community. First, if you look at the numbers between December 2019, you'll see a drastic increase of immigration court cases. It was around 13,000 cases at the Cleveland Immigration Court several years ago, and now we're over 30,000 cases. About 4 out of 5 individuals that are ordered removed do not have representation. The asylum office has over 1 million asylum applications pending, and we are actively assisting both affirmative asylum seekers and asylum seekers in removal, but we also assist individuals that are seeking parole in the United States, individuals that are arriving legally due to new immigration policies. Customs and Border Patrol, they are encountering about 250,000 immigrants a month coming into the country. Many individuals that are coming that we are meeting with are legally allowed to be here, and we are representing them in whether they're seeking asylum or green card adjustment or other forms of relief due to being a victim of crime in the United States. So what our organization is seeking is sustainable funding through either the state or private foundations. The majority of our funding is through private foundations. Until recently, we began receiving funds through state and federal organizations. That funding, however, is very targeted to specific populations, right? We receive funding for Afghans, that's for 2 years. Funding for Ukrainians, that's for 2 years. And we have a lot of demand on by the community to expand our capacity to address these needs. But then, unfortunately, as politics shifts and funders' motivations change, we lose that funding for those specific populations, and we are unable to sustain the capacity that we've built. So our ultimate goal is to get sustainable funding for general operating costs. I am aware that the ARPA funding is a limited amount of time, but generally, that is ultimately what we are seeking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for your presentation. We talked about it briefly. Is this like illegal immigration? They're just coming and overrunning our city, or how does that work?
So that's a broad question, but we serve individuals regardless of their immigration status. We serve refugees, individuals that come here with refugee status. We serve immigrants that are undocumented with pending asylum applications. We help them with their work authorization. So our goal is to legalize individuals that are coming here.
And every one of them that we're assisting is going through the process to be legal citizens. So there's no...
Correct. They come to us. We give them advice. If there's something we can do to help them, we will proceed further and represent them in their case.
Thank you. And just one more. The relationship you have with Global Cleveland, I know they're doing a wonderful job. And is there a partnership here or a symbiotic relationship?
I would say it's a symbiotic relationship, right, Jeff?
Oh, is there? Oh, there's a president. Come on up for a second.
Councilman, thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the committee. We work closely with Catholic Charities.
What's your name?
I'm sorry, Councilman Joe Simperman, Director of Global Cleveland. We're very fortunate in Northeast Ohio to have Catholic Charities here. They're considered one of the best. And on West 78th in Detroit, the number of families they're helping and the number of people they're helping learn English and get incorporated, get jobs is extraordinary. And Global Cleveland is proud to support this organization.
Thank you. And through the chair to my, and through the chair to my council members, they are right on 78th in Detroit in the old Augustine Manor, and they just do great work. So I'd ask each and every one of you to consider supporting this, and I'll ask the rest of the council to do so if it gets out of this committee. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the presenter, just a couple of comments. One is that that given what's going on in the country and the world, we need to be a community that welcomes people from all over the world and assists in any way that we can. So I strongly support the legislation and would like to have my name added if I could.
Thank you.
And I also noted that the bipartisan compromise in the Senate, in the U.S. Congress would raise the initial requirements for an asylum application, which might actually be a good thing, because currently the initial assertions that have to be made to file for asylum is very little, which means that huge amounts of applications get filed and they stay pending for years and years. And if they change it so that the initial application has to be a strong application that has a decent chance of success, well then it might allow us to process the cases more quickly. So hopefully something positive could happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question. Are any of these other counties, and I see quite a few of them, are any of them putting any money into this?
No, they are not.
Okay, so we're the only ones?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Conwell.
Thank you, through the chair. How long has this service been around?
We were reestablished in 2011.
And as you know, we do something similarly with Legal Aid Society of
Yes.
Cleveland. Has there been any discussions with them?
So we do have several partnerships with Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, and we do share clients. We do share other grants as well.
Okay, how long or how deep does this legal representation go? Civil or criminal or?
So we represent them in immigration matters only. There is some civil work that we do in the probate and juvenile courts for unaccompanied minors, but that I would say about 99% is immigration only. And we provide full representation for the cases that we proceed in court. Obviously, some cases we do for brief advice, pro se, but the majority is full representation.
Thank you.
So you stated that all these folks that you serve have a legal standing to be here. So I assume they went through a port of entry, did their paperwork, and then migrated up to Cleveland.
Yes, a small number of them, because we limit our practice and removal proceedings. I would say the majority of our clients are either lawful permanent residents, parolees, coming up from the border with parole status, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, Cubans, and the other individuals, yes, they have pending asylum applications, which makes them, legally allowed to remain in the United States as their applications are pending.
And what's the difference between migrant, and asylees?
So a migrant is somebody who is not forced to leave their country, right? So as opposed to a refugee or an asylee, that's an individual that was forced to leave their country for whatever reason, typically persecution in their home country. Yeah.
What do you attribute this mass flood to? Because we didn't have this, honestly, in my lifetime, until a couple of years ago.
I think there have been spikes over the last decade. I think a lot of it has to do with the varying immigration policies, depending on what president we have at the time. Right now, the parole process, that has increased the arrivals. I'm not really sure. There's a variety of things that are causing the large amount of individuals that are coming, but I can't attribute it to one thing. But, I think the main effect is what's going on in their home countries.
Okay. Any further questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't really know where I am on this type of thing. I know it's impacting HHS, which is our Health and Human Services resources, things like that for for all people to be safe and secure. but I know there's a lot of people that have commentary in terms of the refugees coming here and taking up our resources, so to speak, of how we have. So, you know, I, like I said, I don't know where I am, other than everyone should be provided some safe and security. But how do you mitigate and deal with that rhetoric that is spoken about refugees? Or I don't even like to give people titles. The beings that
Yes.
that come here.
Well, first we like to kind of differentiate what a refugee and somebody who's undocumented, right? A refugee is coming over, they have lawful status, they're coming over with refugee status, and under law they are eligible to receive benefits, right? So I think the rhetoric is more around undocumented individuals. They would have to be, fraudulently applying for these applications through the system. That's not something that we see a lot of. So really, it's kind of educating the community on access to those benefits and, what refugees are allowed under law.
And how do we help or assist with that education?
Our organization, we are often going out to different partner organizations, a lot of parishes in the past. There's been a little bit less since COVID, but it's been increasing. We found that we need to kind of expand our reach outside of Cuyahoga County and going to different parishes out there as well.
Since this is a Catholic Charities Corporation, I take it assists people beyond just Catholics, correct?
Yes, we welcome anyone besides the Catholic religion.
Thank you.
Obviously a hot button issue in today's world, so I would highly recommend, because these are Cuyahoga County ARPA dollars, that those dollars strategically stay within the boundaries of Cuyahoga County.
Of course.
Because we have to follow, we're going to get audited.
Yes.
So
the majority of our clients do reside within Cuyahoga County, and we have.
And I know Lake County's, they have a large migrant population because of the seasonal
The workers.
work
yeah.
and things like that, as up with Sandusky. So, are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, sorry I missed the whole presentation. Did you talk about who's providing legal services?
We are. We have 10 attorneys and 3 legal representatives called Department of Justice representatives on staff.
On staff?
Yes.
Anything further? Okay, so if we're in order, I'll accept a motion for Resolution 2024-0032 for second reading.
Well,
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
2024-0033.
Resolution number
Thank you.
2000.
Thank you, my colleagues. Appreciate it.
Resolution number 2024-0033, awarding a total sum not to exceed $200,000 to the Village of Newberg Heights for the purpose of the Enhanced Home Maintenance Grant Program from the District 8 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. My name is Trevor Elkins. I am the mayor of Newberg Heights. I appreciate the council's and the committee's consideration for this resolution as well as the next. This particular resolution has a genesis that's about 2 years old. When the potential initial allotment became available, Councilman Jones and I spoke, and this is one of the initial ideas that we developed as a possible grant opportunity. We view this in a very broad perspective, in that we view public safety and public prosperity kind of more globally. And one of the things that we want to see with this particular grant is that Newberg Heights has the second oldest housing stock in Cuyahoga County. And this allows us to, because we are a small community, this dollar amount actually will have a substantial impact. It will provide us the opportunity to impact 40 homes, which is a fairly high percentage of the overall number of residencies in the community. We are focusing these properties on owner-occupied homes. So it would be residents that live inside of their home. And we are a low to moderate income community. So the overall concept is the village would be contributing $1,000, the county would be contributing $5,000 per grant, and the homeowner themselves will be contributing $1,000. So the genesis for the idea came about because of the escalating costs of renovations and home maintenance triggered by the COVID pandemic. As some of you may remember, the stories about, 2x4s were, going for $18 a piece, that kind of thing. So we saw what we witnessed was property owners were priced out of the opportunity to put new roofs on their homes, to upgrade their, HVAC systems, to ensure that they had well-maintained property. So that was the genesis for this idea, and we are asking for your approval, and I'm happy to answer questions about how the program would work and why we think it would be an effective use of the county's resources.
Mayor, good afternoon. Good to see you
You as
at
well.
the
Thank you.
podium. So is this, did you create the program within the Newberg Heights itself?
So we actually have an existing program that's a smaller scale. We have an ongoing program that I created in 2017, I think was the year, where the homeowner would contribute $1,000, the village would contribute $1,000 for smaller projects. For example, I need new front doors or new side door. I need new decking. It allowed the homeowner to get something. This idea came about because we wanted to provide an opportunity for broader renovation projects that would upgrade and uplift the overall quality of the housing in the community, creating an actual return in the long run, because as you upgrade the properties, you increase the value of the property, which allows us to plow more resources into the community from public safety, maintenance, and that kind of perspective. So it's a cyclical effect that we hope grows. So we modeled this program, this expanded, what we call an advanced home maintenance program, after the one that already currently exists.
So the village is going to administer it?
That's correct.
Internally?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that your housing department? Who does that?
Yes, the housing department does.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, to the mayor, any age limit,
No,
any income level cap?
no.
So how do you determine, is there an application process? How do you determine the equitability of the program?
So the housing department evaluates the program, the applications come in, and because we want to be across the board fair, we're opening it up to all homeowners that live and reside in the community. And the idea is 20 per year. So it's a 2-year program, 20 the first year, 20 the second year. And essentially it will be a first come, first serve. Council will have the ultimate granting authority and approval on the process.
Final question to the chair, to the mayor, tax. So is this outside of if they owe property taxes or anything like that? Do you have any criteria around that?
Yeah, so our current home maintenance grant that we have, that's the smaller version, requires the property owner to be up to date on their taxes. As well as make sure that they're pulling all permits that are required and their contractors are registered and certified with the state of Ohio.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Like you say, we've been working on this for quite some time. I'm excited for Newberg Heights and the opportunity to, again, enrich the housing stock in this community, as well as the safety forces as well. So you certainly have my support.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to add my name.
Further questions?
You can add my name too.
Okay, if everybody's in order, I'll accept a motion for Resolution 2024-0033 to the full council for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further
Excuse
discussion?
me, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Council President is not a member.
So moved.
I got excited there, Trevor.
Well, thank you for the enthusiasm.
All right.
Good? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Stay where you're at, Mayor.
I'm not
Resolution
moving.
2024-0034.
Resolution number 2024-0034, awarding a total sum not to exceed $200,000 to the Village of Newberg Heights for the purpose of funding safety forces from the District 8 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
Okay, so this kind of dovetails with the initial grant request in that, so the housing maintenance grant is designed to address both the immediate need for community improvement, whereas we all know that we're struggling with a recruiting issue and a employment issue where we see our safety forces bouncing from community to community. Newberg Heights is a smaller community. We have although it's a competitive budget as it relates to the employee payment of police and firemen, we can't compete with some of the wealthier, bigger communities in Cuyahoga County, and the region for that matter. In fact, I just recall reading a story here not long ago where the city of Columbus sent a recruiting mission up here and siphoned off a number of Cleveland's police officers to go to transfer to Columbus. We're experiencing the same issue in Newberg Heights as all the smaller communities in this county are. This would allow us to maintain our staffing levels. Prior to COVID, we were able to maintain 3 police officers per shift. We're struggling at this time to maintain 2. And we are, because of where we're positioned in the dead center of the county, we're a transient community where we see a lot of traffic, and 1 police officer just isn't safe for our community. So these funds would allow us to maintain the staffing that we need to maintain of at least 2 police officers. We have the same exact issue post-COVID with our fire department, where we went from 3 and 4 firemen on duty, and we're able to provide mutual aid to our neighboring communities, Cleveland, Cuyahoga Heights, Valley View, Brooklyn Heights, Independence. Now our staffing levels are such that we're struggling to maintain 2 officers and 2 firemen and 3 firemen per shift now, and we rely largely on mutual aid. So if there's an issue where our squad is, assisting a resident for a heart attack, for example, and then there's another call, say for example a crash on 77, we can't respond. We just don't have the resources, the manpower to do it. This grant would allow us to maintain that staffing of 3 firemen per shift, 2 or 3 firemen per shift, to meet our basic needs. And then hopefully grow from there to we can get back to 4 firemen per shift.
I have a question. Can I ask now? So
Yeah,
are you aware that apparently our sheriff department has a unit that's helping the city of Cleveland with their police needs? Did you know that exists?
I was not aware of that, but I was aware that the sheriff's department does assist multiple communities throughout the county.
It's more than the impact unit. So I guess after we're offline, if you could maybe meet with the sheriff to see if you could first get some assistance from them. And I'm just going to suggest that.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
And secondly, so this is a stopgap measure essentially to help you backstop your budget to maintain, and then what would change once this grant runs out?
Yeah, so what we experienced was an impact as it related to a change, in addition to the COVID challenge of escalating salaries to maintain staffing. What we experienced is a Supreme Court decision that impacted the village's camera and photo enforcement program. Those issues, transferring most of the responsibility for adjudication of that directly to the municipal court, that created a significant lag in our ability to maintain staffing. That issue with the court has been worked out. However, it's generally about 6 to 9, maybe even 12 months lag time before that process is ironed out, worked out, and the issue is worked. So this would give us that bridge to get to that point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I'm looking at the total budget of the project. It says payroll and benefits of 1.25 police officers.
Right.
And 1.25 firefighters. So that's either going to be one really large duty belt or one with a really small duty belt, right? So when we look at this, but can you explain exactly what that means? Because I'm not catching on.
Yeah, so it's the salary of the employee plus the employee's benefits, pension, health care, and then because of our staffing levels, would include overtime work.
Thank you. What is the pay for first-class patrolman, say?
Brand new employee out of the academy, we start at $24 an hour. A lateral transfer, we start with 3 years experience, we start at $28 an hour.
How many people do you have total right now?
So we're down to, in the police department, we're down to 10. Couple of those are bailiffs, but they do cover the road occasionally. And we're down to 11, I think, in the fire department.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just if I may, ask the mayor to make sure our staff has his information if he's unable to stay for the sheriff's presentation, which is actually going to address the need of the city of Cleveland. But I also, if you don't want to stay, give your information to our staff to make sure that the sheriff's office can connect with you, because obviously Newberg's in need.
Sure, of course.
Thank you.
What time is it? What time is it? I have
It's
children to pick up from Cleveland School
1:40.
District.
136.
Oh, I can stay. Thank you.
Or just give your information to the staff. I don't want to pressure you into a presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
And this is taped, so you can watch it if you can't
Perfect.
stay.
That's true.
Great, thank you.
Anything further? If everything's in order, I'll accept a motion for Resolution 2024-0034, the full council for second reading.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Against? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck. Under discussion, we have an update from the sheriff. Sheriff? Welcome.
Good afternoon.
As you heard, Ms. Simon, one of the things we'll talk about, but I really want to start with the overtime. How are we doing on overtime?
Currently, on the correction side of the house, we're approximately $55,000 from where we were at this point last year. And on the,
55 north of where we were?
correct.
Okay.
And on the deputy side of the house, about 37,000. Yes, sir. Year to date compared to last year.
Okay. That's my concern, because during budget, as you know,
Yes, sir.
you guys are around 20 million a year. Initially got nothing, and the executive put in 6, we put in 2. So you're underwater for the 2 years, about $24 million. And now I'm hearing we're north of those numbers anyhow. So we're further underwater, and that concerns segues into the situation with Cleveland and the downtown patrol. Could you give me a genesis on that? Where'd that come from? Whose idea? It fell out of the sky. And
Oh, no, sir, it didn't. Downtown Safety Patrol was my idea. I knew that there was a need. Obviously, no secret here. I came from the Cleveland Police, so I had firsthand knowledge of what the crime rate was downtown and other areas and how it was going. So I knew that the core of the county, the center where county and county council has invested billions or supported billions over the past, let's say, 20 years, there was a need for safety. So knowing that, I spoke with my team, my management team, and determined that we could provide a ready force to drive that violence down. So we went ahead and agreed on the number of eight deputies. Could have been 20. It was 8 deputies, a sergeant, and 2 canine teams to support a very small area because Prior to that, there was the big shooting that happened on West 6th Street, and there were 23 shootings within a few blocks of the Justice Center, in a 3-week period. So clearly, violence was absolutely spiking. And I know that the city of Cleveland was doing what they could with their downtown services unit, very similar unit. Downtown services unit is what they call theirs, and theirs is a pretty much a 24-hour operation. So we created DSP, and that's where we came with the very specific hours. Based on crime analysis, we looked at when the offenses were taking place, when the violence was spiking, and we set that schedule that we set up of Wednesday through Saturday and the hours that we're working. So that was the genesis of it. If I had my way, it would have been something that, job one, day one, just like the jail and some other things. But they had to be a proof of concept. So I started as a pilot program, started in August. And then near the end of the year, after overwhelming support by all stakeholders, we're talking from Playhouse Square to West 6th Street to Tower City to the casino, every stakeholder here that our people came into contact with, or anecdotally we got information back, it was a win-win. So I certainly proposed that we added that to the organizational chart so that it's a permanent, small, not very large, but large enough and focused enough to make a difference. And thank you, Councilwoman Simon, mentioning the impact unit. That's something that currently doesn't exist. This was kind of, let's think about those lines of the impact unit. That was something that was deployed routinely. And if I remember correctly, I forget who was sheriff, maybe Bova or Reed, but the impact unit, the model was a police chief could call them and they would come out for 2 weeks to whatever municipality and give the support for 2 weeks, whether it was vehicle thefts or burglaries or whatever, and then move on to the next one. I don't recall it ever grew into 2 teams. My vision as we go forward and we grow, because we're going to grow eventually, is that we provide a similar service to all municipalities with a couple of those flexible teams. This team, I just named it Downtown Safety Patrol because the focus was the core. Could we change the name? Probably. But the function being the center of gravity, center of financial investment in our county, which requires the most attention, which is frequented by people from all over the county. People from Highland Hills and Bentleyville come downtown. So I figured it was prudent to secure that, make sure that that's safe. Genesis certainly could spread to something else because the previous model moved around the county. That will be ideal, but that would require additional staffing. And certainly I do think that's a need. I've talked to the Police Chiefs Association. I know many of them have other requests. We can handle something. I know the mayor identified a need there. We can handle something in the immediacy. We can support. On the nights that they're working, they're a ready force. Outside of that, if a municipality called and said, for example, we have an issue with vehicles, we have a lot of car dealerships on, let's say, Brook Park Road or Pearl Road, we have break-ins in there, we need support there, we probably could give that level of support for a very short period of time, but due to staffing could not sustain that longer term, or probably could not do the 2-week deployment that the previous impact unit used to do. But we can support in some fashion. But I do see a time when, with council support and certainly working with the executive team, we would grow that capability.
The concern that jumps right off at me is we're underwater on overtime. The cost of this is $1.1 million a year. During budget, I didn't hear about it. I asked about it, and nobody knew anything about it. Where are these dollars coming from? If the concern in downtown Cleveland is problems, all this does to me is highlight the fact that Cleveland isn't doing their job. We don't have excess guys. You asked for 90 more guys. You didn't get them. And I can almost assure you we can't afford 90 more guys going forward. Unfortunately for us, the impact unit did work. It did work, but there was form and function. You called the sheriff, he went out, it was strategic, and we were done. And actually it was well received by the communities. Now where that fell apart, I don't know. We went through so many sheriffs that it went away, and I couldn't tell you where it went away. But that worked. This is something different. We're now in a world of where we're backing up a city that's not doing their job, and we're underwater on our overtime.
All right, Councilman, couple things there. First of all, during council, during the budget hearings, I did identify, I did name and specifically mentioned the accomplishments of the downtown safety patrol.
I'm not questioning that.
I'm sorry?
That's not a question.
Oh, okay, so I did that, I brought it up then.
You did.
And then I made the request.
I reviewed the tapes.
Thank you, sir. So I made the request. So as far as working, the impact unit in the model, that it would be moved around from city to city based on request, that worked. The downtown safety patrol, prior to deployment, I made sure to do some analysis of crime rates and identify the fact that there was a need, and post-deployment kept my finger on that pulse and determined that violence level was driven down. So I would posit, by definition, it worked. We identified a gap, identified a critical need, identified a solution to it, deployed it, and then going back to it, it did work because the crime rate plummeted in downtown Cleveland.
And then my argument to you is that starts with the city of Cleveland Police Force. We're underwater by millions of dollars. We're doing, let's call it a favor for a community. Where's the money coming from?
Part of the, that may not be specifically budgeted, but out of the sheriff's budget, that's something that we obviously nickel and dime what we can to make it work. But as far as doing a favor, Councilman, I think that's more like there's an identified need and there's a responsibility. If we don't do it, Cleveland Police is doing what they can with their resources. If we don't do it, then we really jeopardize the core of our county, where the county seat is, where the investment in our county is, to going into just Wild West chaos, because that's where it was going prior to that intervention.
Where do the patrols patrol?
There's a geographical area which I identified from the river near Cleveland State. Just giving you a general.
Did we get that? I don't recall seeing that.
No, sir, I've identified before. I don't have a map for you. I can send you one. The river to just past Cleveland State, from the lake to the inner belt is the loose box. In other words, they are not venturing further than that, not venturing over the river into the second district, et cetera. It's very focused because the crime statistics were very focused where the violent crime was occurring. And that's where we show the decrease.
The concern that I have many concerns, but a major concern is the fact that Cleveland's under a federal order. How does that affect us going into Cleveland doing Cleveland's job?
Sir, I don't think that the consent decree or the settlement agreement that they're under really has any effect on the sheriff's department. We're an independent law enforcement agency with primary authority over the entire county. So to practice our enforcement anywhere, it's like the highway patrol going on 480. No one questions that. The sheriff's department has the authority to respond and the responsibility really to do operate anywhere within the county. That consent decree specifically applies to the Cleveland Division of Police.
So Cleveland didn't request this.
We've done a lot of collaborative things. There may have been, hey, if you could help us this Friday, we have a concert or something. But to say, could you build a unit to help us out? No, they did not.
That's understandable. But this is, now that I read in the paper, permanent. Again,
Yes, sir.
we don't hear this but anywhere in the paper, which is why I'm a little on edge about this thing. You know, this fell out of the sky as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's identified the dollars to pay for it. Cleveland's, I rewatched your meeting with the safety committee in Cleveland, where they're demanding, not asking, you put more guys on their streets. What's that all about?
Sir, I believe the councilman, I remember Councilman Jones specifically requesting deputies in Ward 1 over in Lee Harvard area, as in other areas. And obviously, with our amount of deputies that we have, current staffing, we could not be as responsive to those things as we would like to be one day. But currently, what we did identify was the need in the core, and that's where the DSP came from.
I understand. If we had the forces to do it, it would be fine. But I don't want to buy the world of Coke.
Understood?
Just can't afford it. just can't afford it. And now we got a justice center, courthouse, security. The judges are a little on edge over there, and I've heard from all the courts. They read this in the paper and they're like, what about us? And I got to tell you, I worked in the courthouse for 29 years. The security levels, especially after 9/11, but even before that, were much more intense over there. There was much more of an ability for the average person to see a deputy sheriff walk in the halls, which I think is very important. We really don't have that anymore, and I'm not blaming you. You've walked into this. But if we're going to put people anywhere, if we have any extra people, which I don't envision we're going to have in the near future going forward, we need to take care of our own. We need to take care of the court tower. We need to take care of security at the courthouse and the jail. When you were sitting here looking for this job, I think you heard from the council, jail, 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 jail. This doesn't do anything for the jail other than maybe put more people in it, which, you know, is a good thing if they're bad guys. And my whole thing comes down to, where's the money coming from? Don't you think we need a policy to, in some way, cover ourselves, not only legally, because I don't know the legal answer to that. I'm not going to throw it to the law department here cold, but I don't want to put our guys at risks. You know, things go wrong on the streets, and then do we become liable? And are we in a way backdooring that federal order? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if you you went through law to do that. I didn't.
No, sir, it did not. And I can tell you from many discussions with many other sheriffs across the country and as part of major county sheriffs, no backdooring to a federal consent decree that is applicable to the department that is imposed upon. As far as not supporting the jail, well, that is correct. If there are bad actors, and then they will be arrested. How we are supporting it is the actions of the Downtown Safety Patrol absolutely contributed to the reduction of the homicide rate in the city of Cleveland and beyond, and the county.
Which is great, but an indictment on the city of Cleveland and their police force.
But a positive for the county, sir. A positive for everyone else that we did drive.
Not when I have guys dying of overdoses just early or late last year in the jail. That's a horrible black eye for us. That's a black eye for us. And guess what? That 1.1 million, it's going to go up. It's going to go up because we're going to get sued. And I guarantee you they're going to use this against us. You're running around all these cities downtown. What are you doing for my family member who OD'd in your jail? You allowed drugs to come into your jail. This is the argument we've heard for many, many years.
Well, I believe council heard, I know council was aware of my request for the 10 K-9 teams to strengthen our K-9 detection of narcotics going into the jail. That's what I'm doing for it. And that is coming to reality. Thank you again, Councilman Kelly, for the 4 dogs. Thank you, Councilman Simon, for the support with that, so that we can lock down that. We're doing a terrific job of preventing weapons, knives, guns, et cetera, from coming into the facility. When it comes to narcotics, which is killing people, we have a plan for that. I did craft a plan for that with my team, mentioned it to council, to the executives team. We're moving forward in that direction. That by spring, that program will be up and running, and that will save lives and drive down the overdoses. So that's something we're doing in that realm.
Right.
That is something that is obviously necessary, that's we all support, and that we know it's going to save lives in the jail and reduce liability. Not to be cavalier about it, but the actions of any peace officer, whether it's Garfield Heights or Westlake or Euclid or a deputy sheriff, are inherently dangerous. And we know that that's something that bad things can happen. And we also know that ships were not designed to be in safe harbor. And that's something that our community demands, that we provide frontline, some support service out there. And that's also the charge if we look at the ORC, as I explained in my previous presentation, that's right in the ORC. Yes, the jail, and I committed to that when I came on here, and council, I've called you many times. Mr. President, I've called you many times when we had an incident. Job one, day one, I was on that. it doesn't mean that other things don't exist. The courts, I had a meeting with the judges yesterday. The judges identified the fact that, yes, some things work really well. They were very concerned, and I meant to try to get the video to load up to play the, who's seen the video in Vegas where the person being sentenced jumped over the bench to get at the judge. So they cited that high concern. When that happened, I called Judge Sheehan, told him, hey, we're on it. We have policies in place, practices, et cetera, et cetera. In an ideal scenario, the court would be staffed about 40 deputies. We're probably 5-ish shy of that. So that is something that they want, and that's something that makes sense. 1 deputy per courtroom. Now, you're going to have major trials and require 3 deputies. You're also going to have a judge that's out on vacation, so there's no trials going on. So it's a balancing act that we do now. But can we strengthen, you worked there many years, sir. Can we strengthen some of our practices in there? And that's something that my staff and I are working on with the judges. Met with them yesterday, have a few action items to work on, but they wanted us to stress the increase. I will mention one thing. When we created the Downtown Safety Patrol, not 1 deputy came from the court section. So we did not take Deputy A or B from courts to put him in Downtown Safety Patrol. So I want to make that very clear. And to our friends and the judges and the courts towers watching, please make note of that we did not do that.
Well, to me, and I'll let my colleagues jump in here, our safety of our buildings and our people and our guests and our judges and our lawyers and our prosecutors and our public defenders and our worker bees is paramount. Paramount. God forbid something go off, and I got 9 guys running around downtown with 6 cars and a dog at 1.1 million a year. There's got to be a way that we can close that gap in the tower and the courthouse and make them safer. And I've seen many things. And I was there when it was very loose because we hadn't had 9/11. Ever since then, and that was a cost brought upon us. But I will tell you this, we've unfortunately been through many sheriffs. Never had concern about our guys running around downtown or other communities other than the impact unit. But that was a process through the executive with the knowledge of council and the willingness for us to pay for that to strategically attack hot areas in communities at the request of the mayor or the police chief. This is happenstance, and I think you just picked up a client without your knowledge, and you can't treat Newberg Heights different than Cleveland. And that's going to get out, and you can't treat East Cleveland different than Cleveland. So we need something in writing where we're going to follow it, or this is going to get blown out of control. The courthouse and the Justice Center will get less safe, and I don't think they're safe right now. You're doing the best you can. And that's where I would put personnel. That's where I would go to the mat for more personnel. But I do have the Ernst & Young report saying you don't need it, and what's hurting you is the fact that we're doing outside things, such as the Downtown Safety Patrol.
Point well taken, Councilman. What are they doing for the safety of our staff? We had 22 cars broken into behind Courthouse Square 3 Wednesdays ago. The city of Cleveland, their policy will not be investigating those break-ins. And you may have an officer or two that may be a little diligent. They want to look a little harder, but by policy. And that's something that the Sheriff's Department is following up on. 8 of those employees were clerk of courts employees, 8. So we are following up on that to get some resolution and hopefully some justice for them and prevent these individuals from breaking into other cars. We have had members, county employees assaulted throughout downtown. We have had those situations happen. There's a concern with medical staff from Metro leaving the jail, and we provide them escorts. There's a concern with officers leaving the jail. So that's something that is a function that they perform to make sure our people are safe. So I don't think that people outside of here who may paint them in a different realm, like they're a group of just vigilantes out there just regulating that's not the case. They're out there making sure everything is safe downtown for everyone, including our employees. And the fact that they're out there is another a force multiplier for us to know that something is going on, let me take my nonsense somewhere else rather than come to the courthouse square or come to Lakeside, et cetera. So I know that's a tough topic, sir.
It's a dog chasing its tail, I get it. It's not an easy situation. But unfortunately, out of trying to do something good, I think you've created a monster. And the monster's going to get bigger. And we need to control how we do this, where we do this, and why we do this, and who's paying for it. So that's where we're at. You're in a bad spot with this overtime, bad spot, which means we're in a bad spot because the onus falls to us, not over here, us. So, okay, Ms. Simon and Ms.
Just a few questions to start, Sheriff. So did I just hear you say that your unit, our unit in Cleveland, is taking care of break-ins of county employees' vehicles?
The Downtown Safety Patrol, I asked other investigators, not DSP. I asked other investigators in the sheriff's departments to follow up on those break-ins to see what we can get. Because it happened, many of those were our employees, happened behind Courthouse Square, right smack dab middle of downtown. So it's kind of incumbent upon us to do
What's the city of Cleveland police doing? That's their job. Are they not doing their job? What I'm hearing from this, they're not doing their job. And the job that you were put into place to provide to us is to put the county first. And what I'm hearing, when we're diverting 8 to 9 men and women outside of the need of the core function of this county safety force and department, is disturbing to me in many ways. When I hear that our judges asked for 5 deputies, and instead of you taking these deputies that are providing this service to the city of Cleveland, bypassing the consent decree for free, they're not paying us, right?
No, they are not.
No, they're not. Okay, let me finish. So why aren't you taking these deputies off the safety patrol downtown and putting them into the Justice Center, where the judges asked and have been asking for that? Why hasn't that been done?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, there is a need in various places throughout the sheriff's department. And as the executive head of the sheriff's department, I determined that there was one responsibility which was right at our front door, and it was important for us to provide that service DSP provides. There are other units, and I have had DSP members do jobs in other functions. They've done hospital escorts, they've responded
I
to
understand all
sir.
that, but why, right now, today, what time is it? 2. Why didn't you call the men and women who are at the safety patrol and say, look, right now, our judges, our core function is not being met. You need to get off the street of Cleveland and come in here and work, or vice versa. Why wasn't that done today?
Same reason it's not done any day to back up transport or juvenile court or field operations or a myriad of our other units, because every unit has its operating strength. Sometimes maybe full, sometimes I'll pull 2 and put them somewhere else.
Okay.
We kind of
Okay.
balance that.
Well, the point is that we don't have the luxury of an unlimited budget to be dissipating and diluting our strength internally that we need to adhere to. And this is very disturbing to me. When did you have the idea about it, downtown safety patrol? When did you first come to that idea?
To the chair, to the councilwoman, as soon as I got in here in July, and that's when all that stuff was happening. The big shooting was in, I believe it was June. I got here in July. That's when all these shootings were happening downtown, and I knew that we could kind of piece together a response force to provide this level of service.
Did you talk to the executive about that when you were interviewed for the position?
Not in the interview, man. Once I was in it, when I was interviewing, that wasn't quite.
You didn't talk about this?
I don't think I brought it.
No, you didn't tell him. So what's his view on this now? Do you talk to us? You talked about a team. Who's the team, the executive team you speak with?
Well, I speak with the executive, with chief of staff, with Mr. Doyle. I mean, and I have briefed him, and he is in support of it.
He's support of this unit. Is he support of the OT that we're experiencing an unprecedented spike in? Is he supportive of that?
To the chair, the councilwoman, the spike is not unprecedented, and I imagine he is if he's in support of the unit and what comes with it. All of our functions are going to generate some overtime.
Okay, but I think the Chair Gallagher talked about the numbers, and we're already surpassed what we've saw last year and previous years. That's a spike. And nobody seems concerned about that. Where do you think this money's going to come from?
Sheriff's budgeting and overtime, Councilwoman.
You're pulling away, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. When you were Deputy Chief of Homeland Operations, did you make any effort within the city of Cleveland safety to address the problem and the need that you're describing here today?
Through the chair to the Councilwoman, when I was previously employed at Division of Police as Deputy Chief of Homeland Special Operations, I did a great deal of work collaboratively with our partners, but from the Division of Police to deploy the resources that were under my command to reduce violent crime in Cleveland. We did a terrific job with that. So all of those in Homeland Special Operations, a series of units, Bureau of Special Investigations, Bureau of Special Services, they had specialized functions, and what they did, they absolutely drove down violent crime. Had they not done what they were doing, the crime rate the last couple of years would have been way higher than it was.
Did you have unlimited budget at the city of Cleveland?
Through the chair of the Councilwoman, no, ma'am, that's not a luxury we had.
Right. So why in this case do you think this would be different?
Through the chair of the Councilwoman, I don't think that's an unlimited budget, ma'am. I think there's a budgetary decision made on my behalf, given the budget that I have, that I'm faced with, that I'm working through. I don't think the budget, as per our budget hearings, I don't think that the budget is fixed. I know there's a slight wiggle room.
You're not getting, okay, listen, I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to pass to my colleagues because we don't have an unlimited budget either.
Understood.
And what you've done effectively is to make sure that this OT continues to rise, and because we're not serving the core function of this. You're not serving the core function of this county. For some reason, you think, patrolling around this area downtown is essential to the county job that you're fulfilling, and I would argue that's not the case. That's a job of Cleveland, and you're bypassing a consent decree, and that does open us up to liability and jeopardizing everything that the feds put in place there. So I'm going to pass it along to my colleagues who I'm sure have questions, but I'm going to affirmatively state that I am not going to approve anything with OT unless this stops. This is absolutely not serving the core need, and when you came here, you knew what the core needs were. And I'm questioning why you didn't stay in the city of Cleveland to address this crime when you had an opportunity to do that. That's my question, because that seems to be where your passion is.
Through the chair of the Councilwoman, that my passion is reducing violent crime everywhere. I did what I did when I was at the city of Cleveland, and we actually had a lot of success. I transitioned because I knew that we could have a greater impact at the Sheriff's Department throughout the county, and not just throughout the county, throughout the region, because based on my previous employment, I'm used to operating from a regional perspective. Northeast Ohio, Homeland Security Region 2, et cetera. So I'm used to that. So, Mr. Chair, I have to just respond to the characterization of circumventing the consent decree, because that's something that no one wants to get into. Having come from a consent decree city, that is something that no one's doing.
What we'll do is we'll get a legal opinion on that, so we're all on the same page, because nobody knows, because nobody asked.
Well, legally, I think by having our deputies there, they're not overseen by the committee and the commission, and there's no oversight. There's no oversight right now for what's happening in the city of Cleveland with our deputies, period. I mean, we do our best with the budget, but we're not in a position to oversee the police, our deputies. Now, we're acting as police for Cleveland. We're serving as police for Cleveland. They're not paying us. Why not?
Through the chair of the Councilman, we are providing a service to the community, and the oversight comes from our internal policies and our internal practices. The fact that there are no complaints or accusations, and we provide professional, respectful, constitutional policing. So there is no issue that we're trying to step outside the law or anything like that. That's something that my entire department is very in tune with.
Okay, lastly, it's not a matter of your internal policy. It's a matter of what's the expected oversight in the city of Cleveland. And right now, we don't have oversight other than your internal people, which I'll ask later about who that might be. Who's your contact at the city of Cleveland Safety? Who do you deal with there?
Well, whether it's Director Howard, Chief Drummond, Commander Counts, Commander Pillow, whatever the issue might be, Commander Tucker in the 3rd District, so whoever the point of contact is for that operation.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Conwell.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank you, Chief, for your initiatives and creativity with this, with your assistance. From a perspective of the county representative, core functions need to be met first. So I do agree with my colleagues on that. I disagree on that with them in helping any residents in any cities be safe. So that's where I thank you with your creativity. So I think what you're doing in trying to bringing the crime down wherever it is, I'm not sure about how your program differs from the impact, because the impact system kind of went to other cities. So we need to bring crime down where it is. I did have calls from some of the business employees that work downtown that they feel safe and that they have noticed this makes a difference in their lives going to work and how they feel. I spoke to Chief Drummond the other day. As we heard from the mayor from Newberg, police are being poached everywhere. So they had a City of Cleveland had a huge hiring event to try to bring on more officers. So I think I know issues always come down to money, but sometimes we need to look outside the box and think about how lives are more important than money and try to get ahead of it and figure out where we're going to have to pitch in. Because I think this, as Cuyahoga County as a whole, with all the cities and all the residents, they all vote for all of us to keep them safe, not particularly that they work downtown or whatever. So I think you're on the right track. You're doing the right things. You're watching the money. So those are higher conversations, I guess, with what we heard at the budget hearings, that we didn't have enough money for the overtime that we have, and really watch how you juggle that.
Thank you, ma'am. I would interject that there's nothing to juggle.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I guess we'd be looking at HHS funds.
That's where we're going here, and I'm trying to avoid that because this 10 million is coming from somewhere. He needs $10 million. We passed a budget, 10 million underwater. Now we got 1.1 million in Cleveland for free. Now we're going to Newberg Heights. Get ready for East Cleveland. Bedford's going to be calling. When they see this, trust me, I've been here 14 years. There are no secrets in the county. So that's why I said I want to get a handle on this. I want to figure out what we're doing, how we're doing it, the impact units, like I said, and I think we all agreed because we were part of that. Right. And it was strategic, it was planned, there was a process, and we were willing at that time to eat the cost because it was overriding the fact that, as Councilman Conwell was saying, dollars, equal lives. Well, we don't have the dollars. I mean, I just don't have the money. And I think that's the core of I'm not even saying that I'm for or against the downtown unit or the impact unit. I was 100% for the impact unit. I'm at a money drought, and I don't know how to fix that. And this isn't helping. And we've got to find this money. And the money will come from somewhere. And some programs are going to die. And people are going to be left behind because we have no choice but to fund you. And why we didn't do it at budget, beyond me. But that's why I wanted to talk to you now, because I expect in March or April, you're going to be coming back for a chunk of money. Because your overtime's above what we even anticipated. So these are holes we got to fill. Might as well start talking about how we're going to fill them now. And that's the purpose of all this. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Sheriff, I think I heard you say through all this that the executive supports this unit downtown.
Yes, sir. Through the chair of the councilman. Yes, he does. I've briefed him on it. He likes our operations, likes the service that we're providing, and the new environment that we're creating downtown.
So, and he should be aware of what the cost is to do this. Right. So the only representative from the executive side is Mr. Doyle. So what is the executive's plan to be able to continue at this route? Do you know?
Brendan Doyle from the County Executive's Office, through the chair to Councilman Kelly. Do you mean with respect to the fiscal side of things?
Well, to keep a downtown safety patrol and to pay for it.
I think the county executive wants to work with the sheriff and the sheriff's fiscal team, as well as the fiscal team from the administration, to work through any challenges there. But he also recognizes the importance that the downtown safety patrol plays, not just downtown or in the city of Cleveland, but really throughout the county, that there is a benefit throughout the county. And I think this is very similar to the impact unit that used to exist. And I think that he wants to support this initiative. It is important to the city of Cleveland as well as to the entire county. And we'll work with the sheriff's department as well as our own fiscal team to work through those issues.
Through the chair, so I understand this is important. However, is he already looking into other departments or other programs within the county where he's going to come up with this money?
No.
The tree's not growing out here. We can pick it, so.
Through the chair to Councilman Kelly, no, that's not happening. I think the sheriff's department, not just downtown, but in many other places, is providing services, and that may result in overtime. After the attack in Israel, the sheriff's department was in Beechwood for a week, maybe longer, providing services there in the wake of those tragic events. The sheriff's department has gone to other places throughout the county and provided services. And so, no, the county executive has not looked at any other counties to try and cut from those budgets in order to give to the sheriff's department. Again, I think that the administration will work with the sheriff's fiscal team and the fiscal office here to try to work through some of those overtime challenges.
Thank you.
Did the administration care to, when were they going to tell us?
Tell you what?
That their funding plan, when this is permanent. I learned that on TV, so I didn't even get the minimal courtesy of being told. Again, this started July, out of nowhere.
August.
August. Found out budget time, okay, where's the money? No money. Overtime was a problem. So you're telling me $11.1 million, you're going to have a plan for this year internally to pay for all of this overtime and this downtown safety patrol that was not shared with anybody on council.
Again, Chairman, I'm committing to the administration of the Sheriff's Department working together to try to work through some of those financial questions, and we'll work to develop a plan in order to try to be as fiscally as responsible as possible.
And let's include the safety of our buildings, the judge's concerns in that plan, because they're not being heard. They're not being, you know it and I know it, they're not being heard. We were through those buildings for many, many years. Things changed, 20 odd years ago. I understand that. But when the judges in total are telling you there's a problem and you don't do something about it, something's going to happen. And then what do we do? Then what do we do?
And I appreciate your point, Chairman Gallagher, because you're right. We both worked in those buildings for many years. And I think that the safety inside the Justice Center and inside the old courthouse is not mutually exclusive from the safety of our employees outside of those buildings. And I think that that's something that that the Downtown City Patrol does provide is to keep our employees safe, including things like, doing an investigation into the break-ins in those cars behind Courthouse Square. It isn't something that the Cleveland Division of Police is doing. And I think the Sheriff's Department is putting the employees of the county, they're making them a priority by investigating those things. And so I appreciate your point about the safety inside the building and also that one of the core missions of the Sheriff's Department is the courtrooms. And so fully appreciate your point.
And if our partners in the Justice Center are not agreeing to what's happening here, I think we had best listen. We've got to come up with a plan. And again, I'm not going on the merits of this. I'm going on the finances of this. And the only one's clicking their heels is Cleveland. $1.1 million, freebie. God only knows. We'll get the legal opinion from the law director as to what we're facing here, if anything. And then we need to have a strategic plan moving forward. Because like I said, Sheriff, get your phone ready. It's going to start ringing. We can't afford Cleveland, let alone Newberg Heights, let alone everybody else that's going to want help. Because they need help, I get it. But we have a finite amount of money. It's kind of
Through the chair to the sheriff, I agree that, it's always finances. Has there been any discussions with the city of Cleveland in terms of their assistance for what we do, financial assistance?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, no ma'am. We do collaborate with them on many instances. I can tell you on a Friday night I was out there that the sergeant from Downtown Safety Patrol was coordinating with the Cleveland Police Lieutenant in charge of Downtown Services Unit. And they had, for the evening, they kind of say, okay, I'll take care of this area, take care of it. So they do work together. But as far as financial request, no, we hadn't quite gotten there. I don't think that some basic law enforcement work would lead to that. There may be some instances where I know many cities are contract cities with sheriff's departments throughout the state. And that's a whole nother discussion to have at sometime in the future, if a city wants to be a contract city, how we would staff up and finance that. But in this instance, ma'am, no, there was not.
So in your opinion, do you think we should, in light of the budget and the issues that you're facing, that we should have that conversation? I mean, they have the funds, they just don't have the cops at the moment. So we're, trying to assist them. Is that something that you're thinking that you have a conversation with them about?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, thank you. That's a great recommendation. I did speak with Director Howard about the jail contract, and certainly he is amenable for us to get our teams together and review the jail contract, see how we can redo that. At our next meeting, I certainly will mention the buyback, some support for that unit, financial. That makes good sense, and I will approach that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I don't know if you were aware, and I don't remember the particulars, but back under the Ed Fitzgerald days, there was a community policing agreement. So I don't know if you're aware.
No, I'm not.
With the city of Cleveland. I don't know if that's still in place or whatnot, but that might be something to read and have under your belt.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And Sheriff Patel, regarding the Downtown Safety Patrol, do you see this as a permanent operation, or do you see this more like a hotspot response like we had on the impact unit, where you're going to work on it until you get it under control, and then it would end?
To the chair, to the councilman, a permanent operation in our organizational chart, and we can probably repurpose some of those functions, but I do see it as a permanent operation because of the size of it, small, and because of the need, and because those issues continue to come up. This year, we had the Pan Am Games. We're going to have to mobilize to support the Pan Am Games. We probably not going to have Super Bowl party, obviously not here, not supporting the Browns this year, but those things will come up, and when it comes to sports and concerts and activities, our downtown is thriving and it's growing, and we're going to continue to have those things. And those things draw people coming here, but they also draw predators. There are a lot of predators who come downtown, even on a normal Friday or Saturday evening, with no intention of enjoying themselves. They come downtown to prey on people, break into cars, et cetera.
So, Mr. Chairman, to Sheriff Patel, our overtime last year was 20 million plus. And my question, especially since we're only budgeted for 8 million this year, my question is do you have a plan in place to reduce overtime in 2024? And do you have a target number that you would like to get to?
Through the chair to the councilman, actually, sir, yes, I do, and Councilman Gallagher speaks of having a plan and a strategy. Two things to that plan. First of all, repurposing of some deputy sheriff's functions is core to my plan, and that is something we're currently going through contract negotiations. Working with the union on that, I've let it be known that that is a #1 priority for our negotiation. And in essence, that's because of, obviously, there's a change in state law. There's one function that we can repurpose from the deputies, and that is the transport of inmates from the jail to to Metro Hospital. That's something that could be done with properly trained and supervised correction officers. State law allows it, and countless sheriff's departments throughout the state of Ohio are doing that, which leads to a significant savings. That savings would allow us to fund other operations and redeploy personnel. So that is key to that, sir. The other thing is the immediacy, and you talk about the hotspot, that's something else that depending on how much we were able to save, we probably could repurpose a new visionary impact unit. And I think it sounds like council will be supportive of that, having the funds, if we had those funds, and then we would be able to maybe go out somewhere for a week at a time and let it be known that we're going to be out, a week in Brooklyn, a week in Euclid, a week somewhere else, pass that around as a matter of course. And of course, then there's hotspots. We went out to Beechwood, or there could be something going on by the airport. So now Berea, Brook Parks needs some assistance out there. Something we could look at, and that would be part of our strategy.
So, Mr. Chairman, to Sheriff Patel, by way of follow-up, what is your target numbers for which you'd like to get the overtime at or below for 2024?
Through the chair to the councilman, I'd like to target last year's numbers and get beneath that, because I know that's the number that we were working with. However much I can get beneath that, I think will be a win. But I know that that's the number we're working with, so it's an operational number. Whatever I can save from that based on these other initiatives, I think that'll be beneficial for us.
So, Mr. Chairman, to Sheriff Patel, if my memory serves me right, I think last year's number was an all-time record, and I think to just get under that would not be a strong enough goal. We need to move by a significant amount in the right direction. Would you agree?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, sir, I do agree. Overtime, there's a big number for overtime. The sheriff's department, I just gave this explanation to the judges yesterday, and you've heard it before. The number's 180, which was set 40 years ago. In the interim, we've had a lot of tasks and assignments given to the sheriff's departments, and never an increase in a magic number. Well, now we're in a position, the DSP is 8 people. Let's remove that for now. Jane Edna Hunter, we didn't have that. The Security Justice Center, we didn't have that. Offender registration, we didn't have that. There's a number of functions we perform today that we did not perform back then. And the sheriff's department has been squeezing by with that, and that certainly drives the number up. Proper sizing of the department would reduce the overtime. Now, yes, it will come at the incurrence of additional upfront payment for staff, but that overtime then could be more, you could be a little more surgical with it because you have significant coverage. Absent that staffing, that overtime being curtailed, it's just difficult because you can't cover the holes as well. If you can properly staff, the overtime will reduce.
So, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Patel, what's our current staffing of corrections officers?
Through the chair to the councilman, 654.
So, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Patel, that's significantly more than we had a year ago. And the story we keep hearing is if we get proper staffing, we're going to be able to reduce overtime. But based on the numbers that you're giving us for the year to date so far, the better staffing on the corrections officers isn't helping us any on the overtime. Why is that?
Through the chair to the councilman, I'm working very closely with Chief Soltis and the warden. We are going through some organizational changes. Today was the first day our new human resources administrator reported to work for us. So thank you for the support in that to the executive and council. That's very good to have that. We were actually at 673 officers. I correct that. But I'm going to tell you right now, nothing is overnight, but we are changing some policies. And there are some significant changes that we're rounding the bend on. I can assure you that before summer gets here, we will have, that number will come down. There's no mystery to it, the fact that certain policies that the employees on our shifts are taking advantage of impacts the overtime. So we're certainly looking at that very closely, and I think that our mid-year report, you'll see a decrease there.
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Patel, final question on another subject. Have you developed a plan for a data strategy plan as to what kinds of information you want to collect about jail operations and why that information is needed and how it's going to be used and how you're going to achieve the necessary IT upgrades to put that plan in place?
Through the chair, the councilman, thank you for asking that question, Councilman. Very excited about that. A couple of things. We are out for a jail management system, and that's something that will grow organically. But more importantly, to interface with that, the county, we're now a Motorola County. P1 is our product. It has significant strengths in it, but what I'd like to tailor that, and in the RFP that we're going to work with whoever the vendor is with our jail management system, there's a variety of things we can do. Let's just talk about the opioid overdoses. When we talk about medical history, we talk about overdose history, that will allow us to track or look at an individual a little closer and maybe impact their reassignment. Number one. Number two, those that are currently under some kind of medical treatment for addiction will allow us to track that also. The other thing would be, you have to go ahead, we have to reconcile those lists, medical requirements, addiction services with security, because we have Group A that doesn't get along with Group B, and you have to put them in the right pod. So what I want to track through our system is the ability to put people in the right place. Along those lines, I also am a strong proponent, and we'll have some discussion about putting people who are receiving medical treatment in the same pod. That saves lives in and of itself, because if you have two people in a pod who are receiving some medicine and they give it to someone who is not on it, they can overdose. Well, if every single one of us in this room gets the same dose, the same product, then no one's going to overdose in this room. So that's another thing. Along with that, when we talk about officers separation, officers performance, where incidents occur, maybe we can track an officer who has an issue working certain pods, certain floors. But beyond that, on the attendance side, I think that's very important, because the attendance is another factor that we're working on that I can tell you by mid-year we're going to have some strong results on. Will allow us to track that also, because some people work better in different places. And I think from a employee morale perspective, if we can get a handle on that, that will be very helpful. I can tell you there's a couple of smaller sheriff departments in Ohio who are handling their staffing. Our scale is much different, handling their staffing very much like the restaurant industry, where people just select their assignments and whatever's left over, the junior person takes. and it's working very effectively for them. When I attended my correctional administrator course at APATA for a week in December, they were talking about that. So that's certainly good to hear. I don't know if it'll work at our scale, but it's something to consider for certain functions.
So, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Patel, follow-up question on that. Is the data plan going to also include items to help prevent situations where people remain in jail longer than necessary?
Through the chair to the councilman, absolutely, sir. We don't want anyone in here who doesn't have to be here. Along with that, we can track what our service is going to be, depending on their amount of time. I'm a fan. If they're not the violent offender trigger puller, we should move and work with the court to get them released. That I think we can all agree on. Reduce the population from who doesn't have to be here. Those that are going to be here, it allows us to see how long they're going to be here and what programs we can engage them in while they're here. Simple things, working with reentry, look at identification, look at getting birth certificates, look at sign up for Ohio jobs, or any of those things that we can do. It's important to know how long someone's going to be here. Today, we have 85 prisoners from other municipalities. I can tell you 18 of those are from the city of Garfield. I believe 12 are from the city of Cleveland and various other cities throughout the county. So it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. Our population today, I believe, is just over just over 1,500. But those that don't have to be here, I certainly think that that's something that our JMS should help us identify so that we can interface with the court and with the clerk and get them out as soon as possible.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Nothing
Mr.
further.
Miller, and the IT system, when instituted is potable, will be able to be moved to the new jail, which, as designed and planned as we speak right now, will identify the medical and psychiatric and separate them. So that's part of it, and that's a red line for me.
Yes, sir.
And we'll be paying extreme dollars for that, but we should be saving money on the inside, so it should stay within the jail and services that we're providing. Ms. Simon.
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions. Just for clarification, the impact unit was different from this of which we speak, the safety patrol, in that the safety patrol is a dedicated unit for a specific place, for specific days, specific times, to the exclusion of other places. The impact unit roved the county. It was flexible. It was on a need basis. It provided flexibility. It did not take away from it. It was flexible. So there's a big difference in my mind about this police unit that's dedicated to the city of Cleveland, for which we're not being compensated. The question I have to the sheriff is, on what data did you rely to determine the area and boundaries for this unit?
Through the chair to the councilman, two different sources. One is the Crime Strategies Unit of the County Prosecutor's Office, and the other one is the Crime Analysis Unit of the Cleveland Division of Police.
Did the data you were provided, with which you were provided, indicate the crime levels throughout the entire county?
Through the chair to the councilman, the Crime Strategies Unit from the County Prosecutor does look at county-wide stats. They have stats in everywhere else, and the Division of Police obviously is focused on the city of Cleveland.
So are you saying that you opened up your opening salvo was we need this in this downtown district because of extreme violence? Are you saying that this is the most violent area of the city of Cleveland?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, it was the most violent, the only violent area in the core. I'm not saying there wasn't other violence elsewhere. There may have been other violence throughout the city of Cleveland and including some suburbs. But the violence in the core of our county, where all of this investment is, where everyone from throughout the county comes here, whether it's for employment, entertainment, et cetera, that's where it was, and I thought that was the thing to address. It seems unconscionable to allow rampant gunfights to take place down Lakeside and Superior Avenue when we could do something to deter
I
that.
see. So it was more an idea about the core location versus the actual number of crimes that are committed in a particular area. Because I would argue that Councilman Jones is probably correct, that Ward 1 the violence there probably far exceeds that which we're seeing in this core area. So really what's happening is this is to enhance our downtown district so people and tourists will come and feel safe. That it's not a matter of violent crimes and number of violent crimes, it's a matter of the location. So tourism, people can feel safe going to Browns games. Fair? Or whatever they're doing.
To the chair, to the councilwoman, and not just Browns games, in fact, ma'am, they don't work Browns games. But it's just because everyone from our county, people from Councilman Jones' ward, come downtown to have dinner and have entertainment, et cetera. So it is the constant generating core, as opposed to, not that the neighborhoods don't matter, they don't have their own things going on, but everyone from the county. It's the center of gravity. It's the center of gravity. Given unlimited funding, unlimited staffing, we would absolutely do this everywhere else. Right now, we're focused here because it is the generator of our county.
Yeah, that was my point. It's not the level of crime or number of crimes, it's the location for that. And you know, there's no talk of visionary other units until we can afford what's in front of us. And right now, we can't even afford this. So, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to address, it was the spike in violent crime downtown Cleveland. Downtown Cleveland had not had a spike in violent gun crime. Let me just make it a little more clear. Gunfire occurring downtown in a number, many years, double-digit years. That was a spike July of last year.
I understand through the chair, but the city of Cleveland's job.
It's the entertainment district. That's not where people live. Okay, I think we got some work cut out for us through the administration. Right now, as we speak, as the clock's ticking, I need somebody over there to find $11.7 million for this year. If you're going to continue this on, we need to appease and provide security for the courts. That should be part of this plan. Our core fundamental things that we have to do are number one, jail. Now tower, courthouse. We have to do that. And I would leave us, if everybody's okay. And I went over this Ernst & Young report. I'm sure you've had it.
Yes.
But I think it goes to where we're at here and maybe a plan forward. And their findings were the ORC defines mandated functions the Sheriff's Department is required to fulfill. Currently, the department has additional functions, i.e. task force, and responsibilities that it has undertaken, putting stress on the current workforce and creating risk for the department in meeting mission-critical operations. The recommendation was map current positions to specific sheriff mandated functions to determine fiscal and workforce impacts of additional task force and responsibilities being performed. Identify alternative funding streams for fund non-mandated functions and positions to ensure mandated responsibilities are being prioritized. I read that as, if we had the money, we do it. We don't, so we don't. Unless 11.7, 11.8, and we can all be friends. Fair enough?
Councilman, I think we're not accounting for the savings we're going to gain when we institute the correction officers replacing, taking care of some of the functions that the deputy sheriffs are doing. And that will allow us to do something.
And I'll tell you, I wouldn't worry about that right now, because I would say a go-forward 5-year plan is what's necessary. And really, if necessary, we can go to the state auditor and have a performance audit done. They'll give us our 5-year plan going forward, and then we're locked into that. Don't know if you want to do that. I don't know if I want to do it, but they're pretty good at what they do in identifying needs and what people do and how you get to your core satisfying needs to be done. The key, I think, that we're dealing with here is we should be focusing on building the new jail, at which point in time there's going to be savings in there. These transports to the hospital, my guess is they're going to go way down, because there is no way in God's green earth that we're going to be delivering people to West 25th Street from Garfield Heights. Maybe we cut a deal with the Cleveland Clinic, and mysteriously, I'll bet you those Metro transports go to zero. But also within the new jail is going to be the ability for the medical staff to accommodate things that are being transported out. Heart attacks, things like that, we get it. You know, broken fingers, cuts, yeah, that's in-house stuff. So there's a lot to be discussed, but I need north of 11.7 million. It's January, which is why I wanted to have this meeting. It will continue this discussion as far as as a go forward. I'll need a legal opinion on what we're dealing with here with that federal mandate. I don't want to be stepping on a federal judge's toes. We got enough problems over there. We're not highly thought of over there for the most part. So let's walk quietly there. And I'm really concerned we're not listening to our judges. So if that's that, we got a lot of work to do.
Councilman, I have to
Yes.
just say.
Yes, sir.
The Sheriff's Department is highly thought of by the U.S. Attorney and our federal partners in the work that we do. So I can tell you from just attending a meeting recently, I know that Director Maniloff is going to join the Director Dettelbach shortly. So I can think that. The other thing is, I don't think that a city being under consent decree, it's something that precludes another agency which has concurrent jurisdiction from enforcing the law. And I definitely don't think that applies to the Sheriff's Department. Maybe if it was another concurrent jurisdiction, another entity.
We're going to
but
find that out.
Being the sheriff.
We're going to
that
find
doesn't
it.
seem
I'm not a lawyer. Are you a lawyer? I don't know.
I'm not.
Okay, so we'll get a legal opinion on that. You may be right, but that's a hurdle. The big hurdle is, where's the money?
Yeah.
And that's the big hurdle.
Mr. Chair, just one last thing. I would like, if I could, get whatever documents you have to indicate what our oversight is internally. You referenced that. Police deputy oversight, if there's a problem with your deputies, COs, what's the internal policy? I'd like to see who's in charge of the oversight. Is it within, it sounds like it's just you looking at yourselves. So I'd like to see that through the chair. Whatever policy we have for oversight of any.
Yeah, we'll work with you as best we can. Like I said, I'm not even dealing with the merits of this patrol or even the impact units. Like I said, the impact units worked. We're all happy with it. Don't know where that went. But this kind of fell out. This is costing serious dollars in a downtime where we're going to have to find substantial dollars just to get our head above water. And I'm concerned about that.
I'm with you, Mr. Chair, on that. I'm always concerned about misconduct and not being a third party overseeing it.
But when I mentioned our federal partners, I'm not talking about their task force or anything. I've sat in too many situations where I think the court looks at us with a cocked eye at times, wondering why we're back again. And, you know, after a while, you get sick of seeing the same old faces, and I get it from their perspective.
Agreed.
So,
Councilman, if I could, just currently, we are involved in all different kinds of work with all different partner agencies. I don't like the term misconduct being something that we close on, because that is something that is not taking place through the Sheriff's Department. There is no evidence of that. If there is, again, I can tell you, coming from a consent decree city, the lens that I look through with me and my staff, and that is something that's not going on, and that's something that we will absolutely act on. So that's something that I have charged everyone with, is the professional, respectful, constitutional policing.
Mr. Chair, to the sheriff, I'm not indicating or saying that there is. It just raised a subject in the past. There has been misconduct, not under your watch, but there has been.
Absolutely not.
And it's been pushed under the rug. That's why, in part, we don't have a sheriff that we had before. So I just want to know, to me, through this council person, from you, through the chair, what we have in place. I'm not saying this in connection necessarily to this patrol unit.
Through the chair, to the councilwoman, yes, we will get that to you. And also, you hired me to do this job, and the Sheriff's Department is multifaceted. There's a lot of different components to it. Number one, had to stabilize staff, improve morale, had to rekindle some relationships with our partners, had to step forward in a lot of different areas, And certainly there is a balancing act that takes place here. And Councilman, you are correct. It is a tight wire, particularly when it comes to the budget. And that's where thinking outside the box and going ahead, looking at this repurposing with the correction, just various things that we're doing and more that you're going to see in the future, sir. If I did not inform you about the permanence adding to the organizational chart, I apologize for that. That was,
Well, that's not just you, that was, I learned the executive's wishes watching the news. We've had that before. I was hopeful we would escape that. We haven't escaped that so far. Hopefully that'll be corrected. It would be nice to know,
sir.
especially we're the ones that have to do the hard things. And if I'm going to be taking money from Peter to pay Paul, we got a tough slog ahead. So we'll work with you to get this thing
Thank you.
figured out. We got a lot of work to do. Fair enough? Everybody good? Any miscellaneous business?